451 helicopters, the largest rotorcraft armada ever assembled for a single target, descending from the sky like mechanical angels of destruction. Not a handful of aircraft providing support, not a squadron conducting reconnaissance. 451 warbirds converging on what intelligence agencies called the most ambitious drug smuggling operation in criminal history. A convoy so massive it could be seen from space, carrying enough narcotics to poison entire continents. The Sinaloa Cartel had spent 4 years planning what they called Operación Leviatán, Operation Leviathan, a convoy of 193 vehicles stretching across 22 miles of Mexican highway, carrying $17 billion in fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, and synthetic drugs. This wasn't just smuggling. It was economic warfare designed to flood American markets with poison that would destroy communities from coast to coast. The convoy's security was unprecedented in criminal history. Former military officers from 7 different nations had designed defensive protocols using lessons learned from modern warfare. Anti-aircraft missile systems protected against aerial surveillance. Electronic warfare vehicles jammed satellite communications. Armored personnel carriers provided mobile fortifications. The cartel had created a mechanized army whose sole purpose was moving death across international borders. But their most dangerous innovation was scale. The convoy was so large that it required military-style logistics to operate: fuel tankers, maintenance vehicles, communications trucks, even mobile kitchens to feed the 800 fighters who protected the shipment. The cartel believed that sheer size would make interdiction impossible. No law enforcement agency could deploy enough resources to stop such a massive operation. They had never faced 451 American helicopters attacking with perfect coordination and overwhelming firepower. For 2 years, American intelligence agencies had been tracking every aspect of the convoy's development through the most comprehensive surveillance operation in the history of the drug war. Satellite imagery monitored vehicle acquisitions and modifications. Electronic intercepts revealed operational plans and security protocols. Financial intelligence tracked the money flows that funded such an enormous operation. The convoy that believed itself beyond detection was actually under constant observation by surveillance networks that recorded their every movement. But the breakthrough had come from an unexpected source: the convoy's own communications. The scale of coordination required to manage such a massive operation created electronic signatures that sophisticated analysis could detect and exploit. Every radio transmission, every encrypted message, every coordination call was intercepted and decoded until American intelligence possessed a complete picture of the convoy's capabilities, intentions, and vulnerabilities. The operation to destroy the convoy had been designated Skyfire, a reference to the aerial bombardment that would rain down from every direction. This wasn't interdiction or capture. This was total warfare against an enemy that had declared war on American communities through industrial-scale poisoning. Apache attack helicopters, Blackhawks equipped with precision weapons, Chinooks carrying specialized munitions, and Little Birds armed for close air support had been training together for months, creating a unified air armada capable of eliminating any ground target. The assault zone had been chosen with scientific precision, a stretch of desert highway surrounded by terrain that offered no cover or concealment for the convoy. Open ground that would prevent vehicles from dispersing to minimize damage. Mountain ridgelines that would provide observation posts for directing the aerial assault. Most importantly, the remote location ensured that the destruction could proceed without risking innocent lives. Intelligence indicated that the convoy was approaching the kill zone with maximum cargo loads and full personnel complement. The cartel believed they were entering a secure portion of their route, where previous operations had proceeded without interference. Vehicle spacing was tight to maintain communication and mutual support. Security was focused on ground-based threats rather than the possibility of aerial assault from above. As dawn approached over the Mexican desert, the convoy continued its advance with mechanical confidence. Radio chatter between convoy commanders was routine and relaxed. Electronic warfare specialists monitored for surveillance signals, detecting nothing unusual. Anti-aircraft gunners scanned the skies through thermal imaging systems, seeing only empty air and natural weather patterns. None of them suspected that 451 helicopters were already in position, having approached during the night using flight paths that avoided all detection methods. Attack aircraft had taken positions behind mountain ridges where their rotor noise was masked by terrain. Heavy-lift helicopters carrying specialized weapons had established firing positions beyond the range of convoy sensors. Command aircraft circled at maximum altitude, coordinating the assault through communication networks the convoy couldn't detect or jam. The trap was perfect in every detail. The convoy was approaching the kill zone with complete confidence, unaware that they were about to face the largest helicopter assault in military history. When the attack began, it would demonstrate the true meaning of American air power applied with surgical precision and overwhelming force. At exactly 0534 hours, the Mexican dawn was shattered by the roar of 451 helicopter engines as the largest aerial assault in drug war history commenced. The surprise was so absolute that convoy security teams had no time to man their weapons before the sky exploded into violence that redefined the meaning of overwhelming force. The first wave consisted of Apache attack helicopters rising from behind ridgelines like mechanical predators emerging from ambush. Their targeting systems immediately locked onto the convoy's anti-aircraft positions, and Hellfire missiles streaked across the desert with deadly precision. Surface-to-air missile launchers that had been positioned throughout the convoy were eliminated in the opening seconds. Their crews vaporized before they could acquire targets. The convoy's air defense network, so carefully planned and positioned, was neutralized before a single shot could be fired in response. But this was only the beginning of an aerial bombardment that would be studied by military historians for generations. From every direction, the helicopter armada descended like a mechanical storm. Little bird gunships, small and incredibly agile, darted between the convoy vehicles like deadly hummingbirds, their miniguns chattering as they eliminated security teams and command personnel with surgical precision. Blackhawks swept over the convoy in tight formation, their door gunners raking cargo trucks with .50 caliber fire that punctured fuel tanks and ignited drug shipments worth millions. The convoy's radio frequencies erupted with panicked voices as commanders realized the scope of the aerial assault. Electronic warfare vehicles tried to jam helicopter communications, but found their own systems disabled by electronic countermeasures that operated on frequencies they couldn't access. Command posts attempted to coordinate defensive actions, but discovered that their leaders were being systematically eliminated by precision fire from aircraft they couldn't see or track. Chinook helicopters, their massive frames bristling with door-mounted weapons, approached the convoy from unexpected vectors. Their heavy machine guns swept across formations of vehicles that had clustered for mutual protection, shattering windshields, puncturing armor plating, and eliminating personnel who thought they had found cover behind reinforced doors. One armored personnel carrier, its crew desperately trying to bring their heavy machine gun to bear on attacking helicopters, was struck by 3 separate missiles fired from different aircraft. The first disabled the vehicle's tracks, immobilizing it in the kill zone. The second penetrated the turret armor, killing the gunner and commander instantly. The third hit the ammunition storage, creating an explosion so intense that nearby vehicles were destroyed by flying debris. The convoy tried to implement emergency procedures designed for aerial attack, but every response was anticipated and countered by helicopter crews who had trained specifically for this scenario. Smoke grenades created concealment that was useless against thermal imaging systems that could see through any visual obstruction. Vehicles that attempted to scatter found themselves pursued by little birds that could follow them across any terrain with precision that made escape impossible. But the cartel fighters weren't defenseless. These were experienced military personnel who understood air defense tactics, and they began implementing responses based on training received from professional armies. Machine gunners opened fire at helicopters with sustained bursts designed to force aircraft to change their attack vectors. Rocket-propelled grenades were fired at low-flying aircraft in hopes of achieving lucky hits. Some defensive actions showed brief success. A technical vehicle mounting a heavy machine gun managed to damage a Little Bird helicopter with sustained fire that punctured its fuel system. The aircraft was forced to withdraw for emergency repairs, marking the convoy's only tactical success during the entire engagement. But individual victories were meaningless against overwhelming numbers and superior technology. For every helicopter that took damage, 20 more were available to continue the assault. The convoy's vehicles, designed to fight ground-based opponents, were helpless against an enemy that attacked from 3 dimensions with weapons specifically designed to defeat armor and destroy targets with maximum efficiency. The systematic destruction continued with mechanical precision that showcased the difference between criminal organization and military coordination. Attack helicopters eliminated convoy vehicles in predetermined sequence, ensuring that command elements were destroyed first, followed by heavy weapons, then communications, and finally cargo vehicles. Each phase of the assault was coordinated to maximize damage while preventing any possibility of organized resistance. Specialized helicopter teams began targeting the convoy's cargo with munitions designed to destroy both vehicles and contents. High-explosive rounds ignited fuel systems that spread fires to drug shipments, creating massive fireballs that consumed billions of dollars in narcotics. The convoy's fortune literally went up in smoke as truck after truck was reduced to burning wreckage. The psychological impact on surviving convoy personnel was devastating beyond description. These men had joined the operation because they believed their overwhelming size and sophisticated security made them invincible. Now they were trapped in vehicles that had become death traps, watching their comrades die while helicopters circled overhead like mechanical vultures delivering precision death from every direction. As the engagement progressed, the convoy's attempts at organized resistance collapsed under the sheer volume and accuracy of aerial firepower. Communications between convoy elements became impossible as radio operators were eliminated and equipment was destroyed. Units that tried to establish defensive positions found themselves engaged from multiple directions by aircraft that could coordinate their attacks with precision that overwhelmed any defensive measure. The few convoy vehicles that attempted to escape the kill zone discovered that every route had been anticipated and blocked by helicopter teams positioned at strategic locations. Aircraft that had been held in reserve swept down on fleeing vehicles with weapons that eliminated them before they could travel more than a few hundred yards from the main convoy. When the roar of helicopter engines finally began to fade and the last explosions echoed across the Mexican desert, the transformation was absolute and devastating. Where hours before there had been the largest drug convoy in criminal history, now only burning wreckage stretched across 22 miles of highway. 193 vehicles, carrying $17 billion in narcotics and protected by 800 heavily armed fighters, had been reduced to twisted metal and ash by an aerial assault of unprecedented scale and precision. But for 451 helicopters, the destruction of vehicles was only the beginning of an operation designed to ensure that no aspect of the cartel's capabilities could ever be reconstructed or replicated. As specialized aircraft began conducting damage assessment and intelligence gathering, the true scope of the victory became apparent. This wasn't just about destroying drugs. It was about eliminating the organizational capability that had made such a massive operation possible. Every piece of equipment, every tactical innovation, every operational procedure that had been developed over 4 years of planning was being systematically analyzed and countered. Combat engineers, deployed by heavy-lift helicopters, began placing thermite charges on vehicle hulks that had survived the initial bombardment. These weren't random destructions. They were surgical eliminations designed to destroy specific components that might provide intelligence to other criminal organizations. Communication systems were vaporized. Weapon systems were melted beyond recognition. Even armor samples were rendered useless for reverse engineering. Intelligence teams, working frantically before the final destruction began, gathered evidence that revealed the true scope of the convoy's ambitions. Documents recovered from command vehicles showed this was just the first of 12 similar operations planned over the next 3 years. Training manuals indicated that convoy personnel had received instruction from former military officers from multiple nations. Financial records revealed corruption networks that had enabled the acquisition of military-grade equipment and expertise. The psychological impact of the convoy's obliteration rippled through criminal organizations worldwide within hours of the engagement. Communications intercepts revealed cartel leaders struggling to comprehend how their most powerful asset had been eliminated so quickly and completely. The mechanized force that was supposed to guarantee safe passage for massive drug shipments had been destroyed by opponents who attacked from dimensions that convoy doctrine couldn't address. But the most significant discovery was strategic. Detailed intelligence on how criminal organizations were scaling up their operations to industrial levels. The convoy hadn't just been a drug shipment. It had been a proof of concept for criminal enterprises that rivaled legitimate military operations. Its elimination had prevented the spread of techniques and technologies that could have revolutionized drug trafficking worldwide. The economic devastation was catastrophic beyond calculation. Conservative estimates place the value of destroyed drugs at $17 billion, the largest single loss in criminal history. The vehicles, weapons, and specialized equipment represented additional losses exceeding $3 billion. But the true damage lay in the elimination of capabilities that had taken years to develop and could never be replaced. Recovery operations revealed the precision of the helicopter assault. Despite engaging nearly 200 targets with high explosive weapons, collateral damage to surrounding areas was minimal. Mexican civilians reported hearing explosions and seeing smoke columns, but no innocent structures were damaged and no non-combatants were harmed. The destruction had been so focused that investigators found desert wildlife living normally within yards of destroyed convoy vehicles. Environmental assessments documented the surgical nature of the strikes. Vehicle hulks showed evidence of being targeted by multiple precision weapons, but surrounding terrain showed no signs of indiscriminate bombing or area effect munitions. Each truck had been engaged individually, struck by weapons specifically chosen for maximum effectiveness against that particular target type while minimizing environmental impact. The international implications were immediate and far-reaching. Criminal organizations in Colombia, Afghanistan, and other drug-producing regions took careful note of what had happened to the world's largest trafficking operation. The message was unmistakable. No convoy was too large, no security too sophisticated, no route too remote to escape American military attention when drug trafficking threatened national security. Mexican government cooperation with American anti-drug efforts increased dramatically, as officials realized that neutrality was no longer viable when criminal organizations operated with military capabilities that threatened regional stability. The demonstration that convoy forces could be eliminated with such precision and completeness made collaboration with American authorities the only realistic strategy for maintaining governmental legitimacy. Air traffic control recordings documented the coordination required to manage 451 aircraft in combat operations against ground targets spread across 22 miles of highway. Military academies worldwide would analyze the engagement as the definitive example of how helicopter forces could achieve decisive victory against mechanized ground formations through superior technology, tactics, and overwhelming numerical superiority. The few convoy members who had somehow escaped the destruction found themselves in a changed criminal landscape where large-scale operations were no longer survivable. The communication networks that had coordinated convoy movements were compromised. The financial systems that had funded such operations were exposed. Even the expertise required to plan such complex movements was eliminated along with the personnel who possessed it. Other criminal organizations abandoned similar projects immediately after analyzing what had happened to the Sinaloa convoy. Mechanized drug trafficking operations were canceled worldwide. Military advisors were dismissed. Investment in convoy-style operations stopped entirely as criminal leaders realized that such visible displays of power made them vulnerable to retaliation that could literally rain down from the sky without warning. Satellite imagery from the engagement site showed the transformation with stark clarity. Where morning had revealed a powerful convoy moving with military precision, evening showed only scattered debris and smoldering ruins across miles of desert highway. The road that had carried criminal ambitions toward their destination now served as a monument to those ambitions' complete and utter destruction. 451 helicopters had delivered a message written in fire and precision munitions. There is no convoy too large, no security too sophisticated, no criminal organization powerful enough to challenge American determination. When drug trafficking threatens national security through industrial-scale operations, the vehicles that were supposed to be unstoppable had been stopped permanently. The convoy that was supposed to be invincible had been obliterated completely. The cartel convoy was blown up. Their trafficking empire was reduced to ash and scattered across the Mexican desert. And the lesson was permanent. Those who wage economic warfare against American communities through massive drug operations will face destruction delivered from the sky by opponents whose capabilities exceed anything the criminal world can comprehend, prepare for, or survive. Total, absolute, without possibility of resurrection or revenge. The sky had spoken in the language of American air power, and the convoy had been silenced forever.